The following interview is part of the
Vechtsport Info Wrestling Podcast.
Hey guys.
Hey, Jerry Lawler. First of all, it's an honor to talk to you, and we're very happy and very thankful that you made time for us. So we appreciate it very much, and we have a couple questions for you from fans and from ourselves, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Okay, my pleasure.
The first question is sent in by Bobby Klein. Could you tell us some more about the match that was planned between you and Elvis?
Yeah, that was the match that almost took place. Unfortunately, Elvis passed away before we could finalize the details. I was put in touch with his dad, Vernon Presley. Of course, you know, I lived in Memphis. Elvis lived in Memphis. And this was back during the time that he was really getting into martial arts. He was doing karate and jiu-jitsu and all of this sort of stuff. And I had a friend of mine, well, actually, it was a guy named Mickey Poole, who was working as my wrestling manager at the time. And we were just driving from Memphis to Louisville for a match one day. And I said, gosh, you know, Mickey, it would be great. An Elvis Presley song came on the radio or something. And I said, you know, it would be great if I could get in touch with Elvis and we could book a match, but with a wrestler versus a martial arts guy. And all of a sudden, Mickey out of the blue says, well, I'll just tell my brother to ask him about it, because my brother is the president of the International Elvis Presley Fan Club. Who knew, right? I said, I didn't even believe him. I said, oh, you're crazy. He said, no, really, he really is. He's been the president of the fan club for years. He said, and he talks to Elvis and Vernon and all these people all the time. So still didn't believe him. The next day, I see Mickey again, and he says, hey, I talked to Vernon Presley, and he said he talked to Elvis, and Elvis loved the idea. I said, yeah, right. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, Vernon's going to call you tomorrow. And sure enough, the next day, I get a phone call from Vernon Presley, Elvis's father. And he told me that he talked to Elvis about the idea. He said Elvis loved it. And I'll never forget, he said, I'll be honest with you, Jerry, Elvis is not in that great a shape right now, but he's getting ready for this tour coming up. He's going to start working out and getting in shape for the tour. And then when he gets through with the tour, we'll get in touch with you and we'll set this thing up. And of course, Elvis died before he ever did the tour.
Wow. Well, it's very impressive to hear that he was very interested. That's very.
Yeah, Elvis was a wrestling fan his whole life. Matter of fact, our wrestling matches before we moved to the Mid-South Coliseum, the big arena in Memphis, they used to be held downtown on Monday nights at a place called the Ellis Auditorium. And Elvis used to sneak in, but he didn't sneak in. The manager would let him in, but then he would watch the matches through the curtain up on the stage. They would put him a place up on the stage, and he would just kind of peek through so he didn't have to sit out in the crowd and watch the matches. And then he actually started dating. He had dates with a female wrestler named Betty Grable or something. No, that's the movie star. But anyway, he started dating a female wrestler there in Memphis for a while.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
So our next question is sent.
Joyce Grable. That was her name. Joyce Grable. Yeah, look it up. You can Google it and see that she dated Elvis Presley.
Wow, okay.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool information.
Yeah.
Our next question is sent by Roy. The talent pool in WWE is very big right now, just as before, but now it's very talented guys. If there was one wrestler that you could face right now, who would it be?
Well, there are a few that I have already faced, but I would like a rematch with. Number one is Miz, because I faced him for the WWE title when he was the champion, and in a tables ladders match. And I felt that if it hadn't been for Michael Cole, that I could have been the WWE champion. So I would like a rematch with The Miz just to prove to the world that I could beat the guy. Or there's another guy, Dolph Ziggler. I owe him one because Dolph Ziggler is the guy back in 2012 that gave me 10 elbows during a match. It was me and Randy Orton against Dolph Ziggler and CM Punk. Dolph Ziggler gave me 10 straight elbows as hard as he could in the chest. And the trauma from those elbows knocked my heart off rhythm. And that's when I had a cardiac arrest after the match and died on worldwide TV, live TV. And, my heart didn't even beat for 22 minutes. They gave me CPR during that time. And 22 minutes later, they get the paddles, shocked me 7 times, and got my heart back beating again. So I think I owe a little bit of a revenge to Dolph Ziggler for actually killing me back in 2012.
We totally agree.
Oh, yeah. Third question was sent in by Arnold.
Hey, Arnold.
Who's beside you is your favorite king of all wrestling?
Oh, my favorite king? Oh, yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of them. Gosh, if I go all the way back, I mean, probably the first guy that I saw being the king was Ernie Ladd a long, long time ago. And then there was another guy. You know what? I guess, and a lot of fans may not even remember these guys, but I would have to say I loved Owen Hart when he won the King of the Ring. Bret Hart, of course, I was not too crazy about him as a king. That's why I destroyed his crown and messed up his coronation. King Corbin, yeah, he's not too high on my list. But I would have to go all the way back to the king, the guy that was wrestling as a king back in the 70s when I met him down in Atlanta, Georgia. And after seeing he loaned me his crown and he loaned me his robe to take back and wear on Memphis TV. And that's how I became the king of Memphis. This guy was named Bobby Shane, King Bobby Shane. And after he loaned me his crown, he went on a tour of Australia, and he said, "Here, until you can order your own, you use mine, and I'll get it back from you when I get back from Australia." And ironically, when Bobby got back from Australia, the first week he was back, he was killed in a plane crash. And so I was left with this crown and the robe, and I've been the king ever since. So he would have to go down in history as my personal favorite king.
Okay, wow. Very interesting. The next question is sent in by Jeroen. Of course, you've been a phenomenal wrestler in the Memphis territory, and you've been a legend ever since. But there came a point in time that you switched from wrestler to commentator. Was that transition hard for you, or was it? How did you experience it?
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't difficult at all, and it just happened. I guess probably if I'd sat around and thought about it, and it had happened over a period of time, it might have been more difficult. But the way it happened was we were back in the Monday Night Wars, and I was just there. I was there in the WWE as a wrestler. And the commentators was Vince McMahon was doing the play-by-play, and Macho Man Randy Savage was doing the color commentary. And so I'll never forget, we were doing Raw one night up in the Pocono Mountains, and the WCW, their show came on an hour before ours at that time. We were both live, and so we were getting ready to start our show. And Vince McMahon, I'll never forget, he's walking around the dressing room. He said, "Anybody seen Randy Savage? I want to go over what we're going to do on the opening of the show." And nobody had seen him. And then all of a sudden, somebody said, "Oh, Vince, you might want to come over here and look at the TV." Went down, looked at the TV, and there on WCW was Randy Savage. Oh, yeah. He made the switch. He jumped over without telling anybody. And so all of a sudden, just that quickly, Vince I'll never forget, he didn't even show any emotion on his face at all, but he just looked around and he said, "Hey, King, do you mind doing color commentary with me tonight? And by next week, I'll have somebody to do it on a regular basis." And so I thought it was going to be a one-night thing, and it's lasted for 30 years.
Wow, and he did an amazing job, by the way. Fantastic.
You know what? I think the secret to that is don't overthink it. I just go out there and wing it. I don't do any preparation. That was the great thing about good old JR and working with Michael Cole. These guys were so prepared and knew all the statistics and knew all the moves and knew everything about the different individual superstars. that I didn't have to. I could just really go out there and have a good time and have fun with it. And I always looked at it as like I'm sitting next to my best friend in my couch at home watching a wrestling show and we're talking about it. That's the way I always approached it.
Oh, very interesting.
The next question is by a lady, Sheetal. What's your vision on the women's division? Do you think it's going to be in the right direction at the moment?
Do I think the women's division is going in the right direction? Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's probably, it may be the hottest part of the WWE product today. And then we have some amazing female athletes in the WWE right now. Oh gosh, of course I really am missing Becky Lynch. I'll be glad when she comes back. But I mean, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and I'll never be able to sit here and go down the whole list. But I mean, just some amazing female talent and their matches. I do like to think back during the Attitude Era when we referred to them as, these sexy divas and beautiful young ladies and that sort of thing. Now it's this whole movement has been about empowering women, and we look at the females now as just some major awesome athletes, and they're doing such a great job. And you can't not be happy with the way it's going.
Before we continue with this interview, please like, subscribe and comment on what you think about this video. Make sure to share, because on this channel, the Vechtsport Info Wrestling YouTube channel, we discuss all things wrestling. We have interviews, we have a podcast, and we will do so much more in the future. So if you want to be updated, please like, subscribe and comment. And also you can win a signed picture of Summer Rae. To win this picture, you have to subscribe, you have to like, you have to comment and share this video. Only then you will be participating in this giveaway contest. Now, on with part 2.
Vechtsport Info Wrestling Podcast.
So our next question is from Adam McBurry, and he asked, of course, you are as a pro wrestler, you travel all over the world, all over the planet. What's your craziest road story?
What is my what now?
Your craziest on-road story.
Oh gosh. Oh man, like I said, I've been traveling in this business for 50 years. And out of those 50 years, it's almost traveling every single day of the week for 50 years. So, I mean, I can't even begin to tell or pick out one that would be the craziest. I guess if I had to pick out one, and you guys can go somewhere and kind of look it up and Google it, and you'll hear stories about it. But I would have to say my craziest trip or road story would have been what became known as the flight from hell. And that was when the WWE chartered a plane. We went overseas, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Michael Hayes, P.S. Michael Hayes, got his long hair that he had for years and years and years. Somebody snipped it off while he was asleep. There was a fight between, I think, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, I'm not sure who, but these guys are fighting on the plane in midair and slamming up against the exit door and stuff. The pilot had to threaten to land the plane. Just so many crazy things. Ric Flair, I can't even tell the whole story, but somehow the story goes that Ric Flair was doing the strut down the aisle wearing nothing but his wrestling robe. So it was the flight from hell. Look it up. You'll be interested in that.
Right. Thank you.
Question from me. You're traveling around the world. Is there a country or a city that you fall in love with?
Oh man, there is one place that I went that, I don't know. I love Japan, but there was with the language barrier, that was a little difficult. But I really enjoyed being over there. The people were so nice. It was awesome. The only drawback with that was the language, because the first time I went over and was wrestling there, I jumped off the top rope out onto the floor to double chop somebody, and I thought I broke my foot or my heel, and it just had a major stone bruise on it. And trying to go to like a pharmacy or something and trying to explain what I had done and what I needed, what kind of medicine or something. I was actually looking for some Epsom salts that I could soak my foot in. I wound up having to try to draw a picture. I drew a picture of my foot and like a rock hitting my foot and some pain arrows going out of it. So, but I couldn't make them understand. So that was difficult, the language barrier there. But the one country I went to that I thought was awesome, and I've said many times, if I couldn't live here in the United States, I would like to live there. And that was Australia. I loved Australia. Sydney, Australia, beautiful. It was just an awesome trip over there. I was over there for like 8 days, and it was fabulous.
Wow, nice. That's here. I hear Australia is amazing for everybody, but I'm afraid for those animals. The next
the only problem I had with Australia over there, like I said, it was over there for 8 days, and not once, never one time did I see a kangaroo. Yeah, I thought they were going to be hopping all over the place out in front of your car. Didn't even see one.
Oh, wow. All right, the next question is from Frederick, and he asks you, normally when you get into the ring, you feel the chemistry, you feel the magic with some opponents, and with some guys you totally don't have that chemistry or totally don't have the magic. With which wrestlers did you have an amazing chemistry, and which ones did you think they didn't really feel good?
Yeah, and there were several guys, a lot of guys that I had really good chemistry with. One guy that probably the best, and we actually wrestled each other. We sat down and figured it out one time. We actually wrestled each other over 500 times each other during our career. And that was Bill Superstar Dundee. And he was in the Memphis territory and still is around. But other than Bill, tremendous chemistry with Nick Bockwinkel. He was tremendous. But I think probably if I had to, there's so many guys that I work well with. Up in the WWE, Bret the Hitman Hart. Oh my gosh, our matches I thought were fabulous. But the one guy that I always enjoyed working with, even though he beat the hell out of you, I still enjoyed working with because I was such a fan of his, was Terry Funk.
Oh wow, Terry Funk.
Terry Funk to this day.
You of course are a phenomenal commentator. You've been the voice for WWE over so many years, and every iconic moment on whatever social media you hear that iconic scream. Now of course the commentators are different people, maybe different type of commentary as well. What's your vision on the commentary right now in pro wrestling and in WWE and as main focus?
Well, I like every single one. I know every one of the commentators right now on a personal friendly basis and everything. Love Michael Cole, Corey Graves. I haven't been around as much as I would like to, but all the guys that are on Raw right now, I love all of those guys. But it's something about when I watch the commentary or listen to the commentary now. And this is just my opinion now. Don't get me wrong. This is just what I think. I honestly, I think they take it too serious. My idea, I would like to come back on the Raw table and say, "Hey, I'm going to make wrestling fun again." I always enjoyed, because let's face it, it's not brain surgery, it's not rocket science. So it's entertainment. Let's go out there and I think that I think one of the problems is that, like when JR was my partner, me and JR, or me and Michael Cole, especially Michael Cole, because and JR too, because we were considered stars on the same level as the wrestling superstars. And I think when the fans at home were listening to the commentators and they felt like they were big stars as well. They paid more attention to what they said. And because JR and I, we had matches against guys, and me and Michael Cole had a match against each other at WrestleMania. We were on the same level as the other superstars. And I think now, I don't think I just don't think because of the commentary, the announcers or the commentators are not looked at that same level. And because of that, I think the fans don't I don't know. I don't think they relate to what these guys are saying like they would if it was, if you're listening to John Cena tell you something, or if you're listening to The Rock tell you something, you're going to listen and you're going to pay attention more so than if you're listening to some guy that you don't even, it's just a talking head who you don't even know their name. And I think that's the difference now. I don't think they allow the commentators the leeway or the freeway to be stars themselves, but they should be, because they're on the show more than any of the wrestlers. They're on from the beginning to the end, and the wrestlers come out and maybe have a 10-minute segment each. But I just think they should let the commentators be more of stars than they are today.
Okay. The last question.
Yay! The last question.
Yeah, sorry. Sent in by Jerry. He wants to know: you are a big Coca-Cola fan. You have a unique collection of Coca-Cola items and memorabilia. He wants to know, when did the love start for the brand, and what's the most unique item you have in your collection of the Coca-Cola brand?
Well, I fell in love with the Coca-Cola brand because of my artwork. A lot of people don't realize, but I'm an artist. That's the way I got into wrestling, by drawing and painting pictures of wrestlers. All through school, I majored in art, won a full tuition commercial arts scholarship to the University of Memphis when I graduated. And I had certain artists that I was a fan of their work. Norman Rockwell was a major influence on me. But there was an artist named Haddon Sundblom. Haddon Sundblom, look him up. He's the artist that worked for Coca-Cola and painted back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. He painted so many of their advertising art. But the main thing that he was famous for was, every year there would be a Coca-Cola Santa Claus picture, a Christmas picture that featured Coca-Cola and Santa Claus that would come out every year in their advertising. And this guy did all of those paintings. I was a big fan of his. And one day I was up in Philadelphia, and I happened to I'm walking down the street, and I'm getting phone calls. I think it's Vince McMahon's, get out there. But anyway, I'm walking down the street, and I see this antique store. And in the window of this antique store is a old calendar page from 1949, and the artwork on it was done by this artist. It was actually a picture of a girl drinking a bottle of Coke, but it was by that artist, Haddon Sundblom. And I just looked at that and I said, man, that's a beautiful piece of art. That's a great calendar. And then all of a sudden I looked down, and the calendar was from the month and the date that I was born. So I thought, wow, this is meant to be. So I went in and I bought this piece. It's like this big. I took it home, and that was my very first piece of Coca-Cola memorabilia that I purchased. And since then, it developed a life of its own. I had to actually move from one house to another because my Coca-Cola collection got so big. I own 7 full-size Coca-Cola machines now, big neon signs, so much stuff. It's I look at it every day and I go, I got to do something with this stuff. But yeah, I love collecting the Coke memorabilia.
We're gonna thank you for your time, because I got a message that you need to go. Yeah. And it was only 10 minutes, so sorry.
Yeah. They just opened the door to the men's room, so I better get out of here.
All right, thank you very much, Jerry the King Lawler, and we wish you a very
I'm going to leave you guys with the words that I had Muhammad Ali on my show one time. And when the show was over, he said this to me. He said, I love your show and I like your style, but your pay is so cheap. Don't call me for a while.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Thank you very much, Jerry. Bye-bye.
See you guys.